They can have a lot of utility. Again, depends what you do with them. You can use religion to inspire people to be compassionate, to give to charity, to build hospitals. And you can use religion to, launch witch hunts and inquisitions and crusades. So, like with money can build hospitals and money can, buy weapons. It's a question of what you do with it.
I wanted to read to you some of the critiques of your new book. I don't know if you remember, you do so many interviews, but we did this for the last time.
Yeah.
But now there are new critiques.
Mm-hmm.
I want to read this one at length so it has some substance and let you respond, which I think is interesting. And so much of what you do is analyze the world. So here's the world analyzing back. In The Guardian, it is written, they write about the new book, Harari is a master of sententious generalization, a passionate need to be seen to overturn received wisdom. Many people think the printing press made a crucial contribution to the emergence of modern science. Not so, insists Harari. After all, printing equally enabled the dissemination of fake news, such as books and witches, and so Gutenberg is partly to blame for the gruesome torture and murder of those accused of witchcraft across Europe, as we just discussed. Silly as that might sound, it also misses the fundamental point. Because the scientific method is accretional, modern science could only come into being once the results of previous experiments were widely available to those who followed them. Mm-hmm. Furthermore, quote, what can we do to save human civilization and our shared reality? Simple, concludes Harari. Subject algorithms and AI to strong official regulation and focus on building institutions with strong self-correcting mechanisms. So carry on being liberal democracies? It's a wan sort of conclusion to a book that has struck such an end-of-days tone. I wonder, how do you respond to the critique that as you look at the world and its emotions, this critique suggests that you are motivated by some sort of emotion, that you want to be different or that you're seeking some edge.
Well, first of all,
second, wait, I got to finish the question. Okay. And then second, although you don't claim to be, I would say, fairly a big policy prognosticating presence, that you've described so many problems, and by the end, what we get is carry on with maybe Scandinavian-style, thoughtful, objective, liberal democracy, and nothing else. What do you say to those two things?
Well, with regard to the first thing, the idea, for instance, that the print didn't lead to the scientific revolution and led to wars of religion and witch hunts, it's not mine, it's very common among academics who deal with these subjects. It's not familiar to the general public, and it's not familiar, say, to people in Silicon Valley, but it is that they're very familiar to historians of the 15th and 16th and 17th century. And what I do in many of my books is take things that are actually quite banal in discussions among historians and kind of repackage them in a way that makes them accessible to the general public. I mean, when was the last time that you had on primetime television a discussion about the print revolution and witch hunts?
Right now, baby.
But, if you go to academic conferences, people would say, yeah, but everybody knows that.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Why do you even bother writing about it again?
Yeah, lawyers are like that too, yeah.
So many of these ideas, they are not kind of sensational, slaughtering holy cows. They are just bringing the banal findings of academic research to a more general public.
But this impugning of you as some sort of fashionable writer, you don't buy that?
I want to be a fashionable writer. I mean, we try to sell books in the end.
Right, fair.
Yeah.
And then your prescriptions.
Yeah, and this is not a book of policy prescriptions. Right. The main attempt of the book is to start a discussion and understand the big picture of what we are facing with the AI revolution, based on thousands of years of previous information revolutions. I try very hard not to kind of immediately jump into the trenches and this is the right answer and all these other answers are not right. So yeah, I do discuss some of the policy proposals, again, many of them not coming from me, but this is not a book of policy proposals.
Which I actually think is a strength of some of these books, although people can make up their own minds, and I was going to ask you about that as well. We spend much time in politics with solution first. People are running literally on their plans and platforms, and then all the conversation afterward. This is the exact opposite of how you would do enlightened policy if you weren't dealing with the muck of politics. You would gather all the evidence and material first. You would look at all the possible options, and then you would remain open to shifting those options.
Yeah.
COVID being an example where the true scientific community that was less politically influenced could continue to evolve over time. People who decided in week one that they hate or love masks were at a disadvantage, were they not?
Exactly. And again, with AI, we are just at the very, very beginning of the AI revolution. We haven't seen anything yet. So if you have like a very strong opinion about what we should do about AI, you know, centuries to the future, this is far too early. So, you know, I do think it would be a good idea to preserve liberal democracies for the simple reason that they are the most flexible political system that humans ever managed to create. And we need this flexibility. In a dictatorship, if you adopt a certain policy and it's the wrong policy, it's very, very difficult to change it. That is the big advantage of democracy.
Well, and as you've illustrated, the dictator will spend more effort trying to change people's minds and trick them to embrace the failure.
Exactly.
Whether it's COVID policy or farming policy or the lights going out, that's where they will exert their efforts, not fixing the underlying thing that affects people. I will say, with only 2 minutes left, I'm concluding our intellectual book interview. And now in closing, I just wanted to hit you with a couple questions. Last time we were remote, now we're really here. I am curious if you'd care to share what has been the room you've been in or the moment of all of this global role and acclaim that you've had where you've either been the most excited or inspired or thrown off balance, whether that's heads of state or tech titans. It is interesting, and I would argue positive, that people can, I don't know if you ever listened to Lin-Manuel Miranda, you've probably heard of, and Dave East. They're both musicians. You know Lin-Manuel? Hamilton?
Yes, absolutely.
He wrote Hamilton.
Yeah, the moment it happens.
Yeah, they have a song called I Wrote My Way Out. And it's about them growing up in tough neighborhoods and writing their way out of them to other things. You wrote your way into this role. Nobody handed that to you. And so I'm curious, as a way of introduction, any moments like that that you've experienced that you care to share, where you're sitting with whomever and you're like, wow, how did this happen?
Well, I don't know, the disappointing thing about the room where it happens is that actually you don't hear many wise things there because people don't have time in the room where it happens.
So when you're with really powerful people, whether you name them or not, you find it to be just fox checking?
In a way, yes, because, you know, when people are extremely powerful, they tend to be extremely busy. So and you always have to say, the feeling is you have to say only extremely important things. Otherwise, meeting is over. I have a more important place to be right now.
Well, I hope we didn't make you feel like that today.
And when you try to say only important things, you end up just repeating the same kind of slogans again and again, and you're always in the shallows. And again, one of my concerns when I talked about privacy for politicians, they don't have any time to really go deep. Because they're running from one thing to the other, from one thing to the other. And it's very difficult under those conditions because, you know, with...
All right, well, now I'm going to jump in. This was more of a personal history. You sort of are making it intellectual. So I'll ask you another question. When is a time where you've seen a reaction to your work and you felt the temptation, you felt pulled away from your methods? I mean, your methods are very reasoned and objective. But you have been thrust onto the global stage. Have you ever looked and said, well, that's not right, or I should post a reply, or anything like that?
To like a reaction to world events?
No, to your work.
To my work? I try to keep myself detached. Otherwise, you go crazy.
Right.
If you just kind of follow what people are saying about the book or about you and react to everything, you can't really keep your balance of mind.
Okay. Last question is more simple. Someone listens to you, they read the book, they say, you seem like you got all these thoughts, you have warnings. If they become concerned, upset, depressed about these warnings or the conditions in their place, whether it's any country, as a citizen, what do you say to them? What do you do when you have that feeling? Final question.
join an organization. That if you really want to make a difference in the world, if you're concerned in the sense that you want to change things, it will be very, very difficult to do anything by your own. 50 people who work together in an organization, in an institution, can accomplish far, far more than 500 isolated individuals. So our superpower as humans is the ability to connect, to cooperate. So again, if you want to change something, either join an organization, or if no organization exists, start an organization.
Yuval Noah Harari, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Really great to do it in person. The book is Nexus, A Brief History of Information Networks from the Stone Age to AI. You can get it wherever you get your books.